I think Nintendo of Europe took a bit of a risk calling this Luigi's Mansion 2. The instant you see this game, you assume you know what it is, and you're probably wrong. While the first game certainly had its fans, it's largely remembered with some bitterness. For Nintendo, it's a game that was made with the intention of shifting the GameCube into homes, and it really didn't do its job. For many players, it was a sore point as they wanted a high-flying Mario adventure, not a meandering and unfocused Luigi crawl. It was a very good game, but there still seems to be an overwhelming atmosphere of disappointment surrounding it. The idea that Nintendo made its first direct sequel over a decade later may seem odd, but it shows that there are people in the company who still believe in the game. It's best to clarify now that Luigi's Mansion 2 is a far better game than its GameCube predecessor. In fact, it makes the original look like fucking dross. Like an idiot's stupid, fucking irrelevant doodle of a game. While the first game kept you in one house for its entire duration, Luigi's Mansion 2 gives you 6 separate ones. Initially, this might seem like a worrying decision, one that disassociates the game from the survival horror titles that inspired it, all in the name of making the game appear bigger. But simply not the case. It's a decision that's allowed the developers to get much more ambitious with their designs. Corridors no longer need to be multi-purpose and bland. Luigi's Mansion 2 is happy to throw one-way routes and room-filling puzzle ideas at you. It's this kind of design that reminds you that Luigi's Mansion was supposed to be a tribute to the Ghost House levels in Mario. Tricky, deceiving, surprising, clever and rewarding. The multiple mansions allow far greater variety than what was seen in the first game. Missions now take on distinct themes and each one introduces new level gimmicks and enemies. Levels constantly surprise you and that adds to the silly comic horror theme. It's a game that's suitable for young kids with funny cartoon characters, but it still plays with the eerie atmospheres and jumpy surprises like any good survival horror game. The biggest improvement from the first game though is the quality of the puzzles. Luigi's Mansion 2's puzzles could confidently compete with the most critically acclaimed point-and-click games out there. Puzzle solutions are rarely ever too abstract to make sense, and they always surprise and delight with their charming solutions. You couldn't make puzzles this clever or satisfying if the rooms necessarily had to serve other purposes. That's what justifies the idea of splitting the game up into separate locations. Luigi's Mansion 2 isn't a survival horror or a point-and-click game though. It's a true action-adventure game with combat and navigation playing as much of a role as puzzles and cinematic elements. It's a Mario spin-off that borrows much from its source, but that doesn't mean it plays anything like a platformer either. It's an adventure game without a jumping button, but slidey, bouncy physics play a big role in both the action and the puzzles. A lot of puzzles are about the way things move and how Luigi's silly hoover can affect that. You only ever have a handful of familiar ways to interact with puzzles, but the solutions rarely feel obvious or lacking in logic. Though the Super Mario World's ghost houses inspire a lot of the game's puzzles, there's little reliance on hiding pathways or trial and error puzzle solving. Things make sense, but you're surprised with ingenuity. Typically for a Mario spin-off, there's a lot of great character and charm to the game. They're fun to watch and interact with, and non-interactive sections make up a lot of the game's appeal. It's something welcome in a game that can often boil down to a lot of quiet wandering. When you find something, it comes with a lot of energy and excitement. The game's really big too. Levels are full of the same kind of secrets you'd expect to find in a Mario game, but the levels can often take 30 minutes to an hour to figure out and complete. It reminded me of some of the things I'd liked about the more immersion-focused Mario 64 and Sunshine that you don't see in the newer Mario games. You can lose yourself in levels. You're happy to. The attention to detail throughout is astounding. While cuter Mario games are full of rounded edges and flat surfaces, Luigi's Mansion 2 is purposefully lumpy and awkward. It's an interesting thing to look at, and key items are well hidden in the intricate residential settings. And when the game wants to go for a surreal change in setting, it has a dramatic impact. The architecture of the game helps moments that could otherwise seem pretty boring. Besides this, there's also a multiplayer mode that repurposes the main campaign's mechanics for co-op/competitive knockabout. It's a diversion that will appeal to some more than others, but it shows how great the underlying core of the game is that it can be applied to a fairly different design and still work well. Putting this game on the 3DS has allowed Nintendo to do something they wanted to do with the first one. It's a weird little trivia tidbit, but Luigi's Mansion was developed with 3D TVs in mind, back when nobody had them, and Nintendo were so keen on the idea that R&D went into a potential Nintendo branded TV. The 3DS finally shows what 3D offers a game like this. There's multi-level open rooms, puzzles that involve distance and speed, and a lot of spinning flying ghosts. Not being somebody who typically plays games in 3D, it didn't really have a big impact on me, but it's an appealing aspect of the game, and if you're interested in the potential of the 3D effect, Luigi's Mansion 2 does a good job showing it. The main thing though is that Luigi's Mansion 2 stands out amongst the 3DS's already diverse software library. It ought to appeal to fans of survival horror and point and click, but it skews all the established tropes to serve a handheld system well. It blends the appeal of established handheld hits like Professor Layton and, again, Mario to present something unique. The level structure of the game gives you a definite starting and stopping point, and it's a great game to turn to for a wee bit when you're in the mood for it. New levels bring different locations and boss ideas, so it also serves well for longer playtimes. It'd be a great game to take with you on holiday. If you're into games like this, there will be times when nothing you own will serve your purposes. That's why you need Luigi's Mansion 2. This creative puzzle action game with its long playtime and bags of replay value. Luigi's Mansion 2 does so many things right with the genre that often places writing before gameplay. It ought to stand out as one of Nintendo's boldest successes, and for all the bewilderment that surrounded the Year of Luigi promotional campaign, it's easy to see why they'd have such confidence in the idea when they know they've made such a well-designed and unique game. Knowing the original game, I had little interest in picking up Luigi's Mansion 2, but I'm glad I gave it a chance. It's a fucking masterpiece.